I apologize ahead of time because I forgot my microphone today, but today we're going to be talking about handlers and consent. Because in order for anyone to do anything to you in this world, you on some level have to consent. Now, if you don't know what a handler is, a handler can be somebody in MK Ultra Monarch programming that is here to pull you away from your intended path, somebody who's there to guide you, act as a mentor or a programmer to program you to go down a certain path that fits their agenda for you. And the reason why a lot of us consciously or unconsciously give our power away to these types of people is most likely because we've been programmed and conditioned to oftentimes at birth. So if we're talking about legit MK Ultra Monarch programming lore, at least from what I've read, huge disclaimer, this is just information from a book written by Fritz Springmeier and Cisco Wheeler that was published in the 90s. It's called The Illuminati Formula Used to Create an Undetectable, Total Mind-Controlled Slave. The only reason I talk so much about this on my channel is because I've had people try to use these tactics on me, which led me to reading that book and doing my own research and understanding, at least allegedly, how some of this seems to work. So, according to this Monarch literature, oftentimes the people targeted are born into the bloodline. And we've talked about this many times on my channel too, that often these bloodlines have curses on them because the family has been worshiping the same demonic spirits or whatever for generations. Or maybe it's just a soul contract. I'm not exactly sure how that part works, but a lot of people who are targeted individuals feel like there is a bloodline curse, and we hear it often in the spiritual community too, like the new age, light workers, generational curse breakers. And I've made some videos all about that go into blood types. RH negative is mentioned in those. I'm no expert on RH negative, only that it's a bloodline that a lot of gate people and targeted individuals, gifted kids, neurodivergent souls, sensitive souls tend to have. The thing that connects all these types of people together is that we tend to be more sensitive. And if we weren't so powerful and they weren't afraid of us in some way, they wouldn't be targeting us. The only reason they try so hard to target people is because they don't have the power in themselves or the beliefs. Oftentimes because they've also been victims of the same conditioning. People who are abusers were often victims themselves. You don't grow up to be an abuser if you had a perfect, normal, happy life. You grow up to be an abuser because you were abused yourself, and it feels better to be the abuser than it does to be the abused. So my heart truly, after my experience, kind of goes out to them. I feel sorry for them because they weren't able to break out of their own mental prisons that they've been programmed to. Some of these people probably are too afraid to escape because their finances and everything about their life is controlled by their own handlers. Because I would imagine you don't become a programmer or somebody who continues to recruit or try to handle people if you yourself don't have your own handler that you report to. And at least again, in my experience, these people who try these tactics on me were hopelessly not addicted, but they were hopelessly controlled by their own family. They were always disappearing at weird hours with their family, and they were financially dependent on their parents. I think one of them got the allowance from their parents. The other one didn't even have their kid full time, and the other one couldn't also afford his own place of living. So these people, these abusive, manipulative, narcissistic types, often stay in these situations because they're controlled in some way by somebody else. So then they report to them, probably, allegedly, at least this is what I'm gathering and guessing. And then they continue to keep the cycle going because might be all they know, because they feel powerful when they can guide people away from their own narrative. They feel powerful when they can do witchcraft and summon up these demons. But one and very, very, very important note I want to make that I'm feeling super fired up about today is the fact that they only have power over us when we give it to them. So oftentimes, yeah, we can be manipulated to give it to them, to be brainwashed to give it to them. But the thing I was thinking about earlier today when having a conversation with a friend about movies and movie programming is, have you noticed that even the most twisted stuff they do in movies, at the end, it's usually love that wins. Even the disaster movies, the ones where the earth is about to explode because there's some kind of outside threat. And there's another great movie that really drives home this point. It's called Hideaway with Jeff Goldblum and Alicia Silverstone. I think that might have been a 90s movie. But the whole idea, even in that movie, is that somebody sells their soul to Satan at the beginning of the movie, and then the spirit or something comes back to, I think it's like haunting the family or something. Oh, that's what happens. Excuse me. The dad gets in an accident and he has like a near-death experience. Scary. The dad has a near-death experience, and then when because he was so close to crossing over on the other side, this spirit comes back and enters his body with him. So the dad starts acting funny and then has these ideas that he wants to commit crimes and murder like the soul that entered his body did. So other things happen, I don't really remember, but at the end of the movie, I do remember the one epic battle scene where it's all of these red little demonic minions who are like little peons, little ants. And then I think it might be Archangel Michael's. It's one of the blue angels that comes in battle against these demons. And the one angel is huge and powerful and beautiful. And yeah, there's a battle and there's chaos that ensues. But all these demons are so tiny and little. It just shows you the true power of God, of Jesus, of angels, of the light, of love, whatever you want to call it. And I heard a great podcast the other day. I don't remember the creator's name because it randomly showed up on my For You page or whatever, my home screen on YouTube, but it was about Loosh and it was about Robert Monroe's perspective. Now, some of us have mixed feelings about Monroe and his work, myself included. I think it's a possibility that because he was working so close with the government or CIA, it's a possibility that he could have been, forced to put subliminals or something weird in there. I'm not saying that for a fact. I'm just keeping an open mind about that being a possibility for why people feel weird about the Gateway tapes. But they also may be feeling weird about them if the tapes were used to try to program them to be a certain way or do something when they were in childhood. So that ties back to the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented program, and how they played the Gateway tapes either during the hearing test and or also probably in computer classes or when they were taking people into private rooms. And since most people don't remember what they did in the GATE program, it's possible that we were programmed to do weird stuff. It's possible that we were programmed to imagine weird stuff. That was stuff that the government or CIA intelligence agencies were experimenting on, because after all, other countries like China, Russia, had psychic spies in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So this was prime time for them to experiment and make sure America was up to date with all the things that these other countries were doing. So that might also be why some people have a weird feeling about the Gateway tapes. So back to Robert Monroe, who was the one that created the Gateway tapes and has the patent for them. People often associate Robert Monroe with Loosh. Now, Loosh is something that people also associate the movie Monsters, Inc. with. It's this idea that entities, astral beings, archons, demons, whatever, even extraterrestrial aliens, I'm not really sure, but they feed off of our life force energy. And it's almost like Earth is a farm for these types. It's a Loosh farm, and they are feeding on our lower level emotions like guilt, fear, shame, powerlessness, despair, depression, anxiety. And that makes sense to a lot of people why Earth has cataclysmic events and natural disasters and why bad things happen here. But the thing that this creator was saying that most people look past is that they often just stop there in Monroe's book and they don't get to the end of the book. And later on in the chapter, this creator read If I can find the creator again, I will link him and give him credit. But he was talking about, or he was reading some passages from Monroe's book about how love also gives off Loosh. So it's also a form of Loosh, and it's a higher vibrational form of Loosh. So, and he was also saying that Earth is an evolving planet. Our consciousness is expanding on this planet, and it's possible too that the beings or whatever is farming us for Loosh is starting to change the frequency of Earth to a more enlightened or higher consciousness place, because they can, Loosh us with love, and it's more valuable than the fear, guilt, pain. But that's not to say that there are other species and entities that are not coming to Earth who are using us for the Loosh of the lower level emotion. So I think some of that could be going on. And then, oh man, there's another really important point that he made that was so valuable. But basically all that to say that the other thing was that when Robert Monroe was having these experiences with these entities, they also did not have the words to translate it into our language. So it's kind of like how when you're learning Spanish from English, they don't have every single word for word in the language. So oftentimes you're saying, I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's been years since I've taken Spanish. But I know there's translations of Spanish that if you were to say it literally, it wouldn't make sense. So that was kind of the same idea that Robert Monroe was saying. So like when they tried to say that Earth was a Loosh farm, the humans interpreted it as something negative and terrifying and scary. And I'm not sure if that's where David Icke, where his school of thought comes from. I don't know if he's CIA plant and that's where he talks about the Saturn Moon Matrix theory. But there are other creators out there and spiritual teachers and psychics and prophets and whatnot who talk about Earth being a school. And that is what I tend to believe too. I believe that Earth is a school. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that. Because when I had my Gangstalking experience, I was controlled for a short period of time. Oftentimes when we're learning a lesson about power, we temporarily give our power away in order to prove back to ourselves that we have the power. So ultimately, even though you may experience a short period of time where these entities or these people or these handlers have power over you, ultimately it's you at the end of the day that has the power. So the second you wake up to the power inside of you is the second the Gangstalking stops in a conscious way. Now, that's not to say, at least for me, that I still don't get weird messages on my channel and people coming in to try. But it's laughable to me now because I know my power. I know that we as humans are sovereign beings. Another great teacher who talks about this is Bashar. And I know Bashar kind of like is hit or miss for people. But he channels an entity that, is allegedly from another planet. So alien being, a different species that isn't too far off from us on Earth. But his whole thing is like, just try these law of attraction experiments. Try following your highest joy, not anxiety disguised as joy, but your highest passion in any given moment to the best of your abilities, and start changing your underlying belief systems. Like, this is why I'm so passionate about teaching this stuff on my channel. And I know we get into some dark stuff, but ultimately it's to remind you of your power. So this is why I have the pay what you can fear inventory belief exploration worksheets - 21-day habits tracker. And so it's listed as pay what you can. So if you don't have the resources, you can get it for free. So if you can pay for it, I appreciate that because I put a lot of time and energy into it and I have to support myself too. But if you can't, also just, pay it forward some other way to somebody else if you can't pay it forward financially. So those tools are there for those who need them. Those tools changed my life. They helped remind me of my sovereignty, and they showed me how my beliefs were controlling my life. And that's a big thing that Bashar teaches. And when I applied those lessons to my Gangstalking experience, all this stuff seemed to disappear. And the other thing that really started happening, which I've talked about in my handlers and hexes video, and then there's another one, handlers and magic video. how a lot of these societies or handler types are also into occult magic, chaos magic, ritualistic magic. But what happened when I was contacted or whatever, recruited or targeted is the best word, by these individuals who are practicing this stuff, even if their spell worked for a temporary time, they got the same energy back by trying to do the spell on me. And I gave this one example of how one guy did some kind of spell so my car would break down, or to pass off some karma from me. And I had to get my alternator placed because my car broke down on a trip. And that alternator was like $369, something like that, to replace. Somewhere in the 300s. And then not even a couple weeks later, his car radiator like went out or something. And I remember him telling me it was like $900 or $1,000, and he was all stressed out about how he was going to pay it. And then he was pissed off because somebody messed up his vanity plate of his very expensive car. And I can't help but laugh, because looking back on it, I'm like, well, you're not immune to this either. So my biggest pet peeve, and like what I'm so passionate about, I can't stand all these, you know, people who are lurking on these types of pages, these targeted individuals or gangstalking program, and they come in the comments and they try to remind people, oh, these demons and these entities, they connect to people's brains and they control them. And there's a difference between spreading knowledge and spreading fear, because when you're saying it like that, you're not helping people and you're not empowering them, and that's not true. That's your truth. So maybe you were brainwashed by specific communities, and that's all you know, and you haven't tapped into your power yet. So you continue to propagate those beliefs and put them back out into the world and tell everyone you know that this is how it is, because that's how it was for me. So, I mean, I know maybe I even sounded contradicting saying this, but I mean, this isn't contradicting at all, because I'm saying in my experience, because my beliefs ultimately shifted to believe that these organizations and people don't have power over me, I was able to stop the spells, stop the magic, stop the gangstalking. I blocked everyone. I got my power back. I stopped being afraid of speaking out, really, and sharing my story. And for me, shifting my beliefs worked. Now, if you're a person who doesn't believe that it can be that simple, then they're not going to shift for you. But if you can allow yourself for one moment to open your mind to believe that your beliefs might be able to be changed with a little bit of self-awareness, with a little bit of work, with a little bit of discipline. Maybe give up substances that are making you feel paranoid. Maybe start distancing yourself from the people that practice occult magic. Maybe start distancing yourself from your family and your handlers, or whoever acts as a handler in your life, if you have to. That's what I had to do. I had to slowly distance myself from those people over time, and had to be okay with being alone, or going back to my old friends from high school, or periods of my life where I was really happy and my gut told me that I was happy. It wasn't a manufactured fake happiness. Those are the people I leaned on. The ones that I met at the best times in my life, who were there for me, who were good people, who I trusted with all my heart and soul. I leaned on them, and that at that point in my gangstalking story, it was only one or two of them, and they weren't even living where I was. So even just having one or two people to talk to about your experiences is really helpful and powerful. But for me, I had to just block everybody else, and then not even feel bad about it, and not fall into their manipulation tactics. Because the other thing I realized is sometimes when you block people, or you're like afraid to block people, they will keep texting you time and time again. They start to get really aggressive about how they target you. And then something like, oh, they may end up in a hospital. Oh, now they need your ride. Oh, well, remember that money that you owed them? Now you owe it to them. Or they'll find anything to get back into your life. So you have to be extremely firm with your boundaries when you're trying to pull yourself away from a handler, a narcissist, a gangstalking type experience. And I'm gonna turn around now. But yes, boundaries are so important. And I did go over in my last video the handlers, Monarch programming and handlers part 2, how they use AI and social media to recruit people. So that video goes over a real life example of how handling and manipulative people may contact you on the internet. So there's some tips in there about the language they use, the NLP, the mirroring tactics, the sketchy beliefs that they have. If you really pay close attention, it kind of sounds like a cult. They have certain ideologies, and then they always group themselves with other superior people, kind of like, the way life is this way is because we intended it to be that way. So they're talking like there's some kind of mentor or wise elder or somebody who's channeling a demon. But let me tell you, a demon is like the lowest level form of something that you can channel. There's beings of way higher consciousness, but you have to be in the vibrational consciousness and vicinity to receive them. So demons, demons, doesn't demon just mean, I forget what day means, but moon, something about the moon. And the moon is our unconscious. So if the sun is what is conscious in our minds, in our life, the moon is what is unconscious. So in a way, demons could also just be symbolic of unconscious emotions, unprocessed emotions. So that's the thing I've learned about trauma, is that if we don't address it and we just ignore it and we try to run from it, we try to mask it through through so many things, alcohol, through MJ, through plastic surgery, cosmetic enhancement, through food, through exercise, through money and power, then we're just shining a bigger light on those emotions, and we're robbing ourselves of the opportunity to spring forward into our true power, our true greatness, and our true ability to impact this world. So all of that to say, what this earth seems to be, to me, is more like a school where we get to decide what we believe. And if we are unsure and not strong or faithful in our beliefs, the universe will often put experiences in our path that help us make an informed decision about what we believe. So if you're, on the brink of wondering about how the world operates, maybe you've been into conspiracy content or secret societies, and all of a sudden you start experiencing gangstalking and spying and all this stuff, or recruitment from organizations, or maybe some kind of cult person wants to enter your life, maybe it's just a narcissist in a relationship who's acting as a handler. That might show up at a time when you're exploring consciousness, when you're having an awakening, and those things start to happen because ultimately they're there to accelerate your spiritual path. And for the people who get lost in this stuff and they're in it for decades and decades and decades, well, the way I'm kind of looking at that is that if you've had decades and decades of this experience and you just haven't been able to get out, think of all that power that you have. It's like pulling an arrow back. The deeper you go, the more darkness, the more depths of despair that your soul has put itself through. That means when you finally let go, when you finally wake up and claim your power and decide that you're going to rewrite your beliefs and cut these people off and have strong boundaries, you're going to, bam, go so far past them that they won't even show up in your life. They can't even vibrate at that vibrational frequency or vicinity anymore. So that's where you find the true freedom, is by not being afraid to look this stuff in the face. And for some reason, I'm being shown and reminded of the time right before I got sober, a couple years prior. My mind was just a mess. I was drinking a lot of alcohol. That was my social life. I had a 9-to-5 job working in the corporate world, not happy, super low self-esteem, eating problems like binge eating disorder, just couldn't stop emotionally eating, on Adderall, prescribed it by my doctors, and I just was not happy or in touch with myself. And there was a few times where I had these nightmares, reoccurring dreams, and then it was the kind of dream where you would have a nightmare and then think that you're woken up, but then it's a dream within a dream within a dream. So I kept waking up thinking that I was still sleeping and the nightmare was over, but then it was another one, and it was so terrifying. And at that same time, my mom had a partner who was heavily addicted to certain substances that were very demonic, and so much trauma and pain in my household. And I was trying to be this anchor for my mom and help her out of that situation. Ultimately, I could not do that because that was her journey. But trying to even be the one who's the emotional rock for somebody else can also destroy you. So that was a big lesson for me to learn that too. I have to have strong boundaries even with who I'm helping, because sometimes somebody else's pain and despair that they refuse to process on their own can bleed out. And you can have the savior complex yourself. Like, I want to save other people. I want to help other people. But at the end of the day, it's not helping me. It's not serving me. I have to put my oxygen mask on first before I help people. So it's really important to have also strong boundaries when it comes to who you're even letting like share with you. Because I'm not saying don't listen to people or don't help people, but be discerning about how much of your time you're going to give somebody. Because I don't know if therapists struggle or suffer with this, but if you're hearing somebody's story all the time and all they do is vent, but they never take action, and all they're talking about is how they're a victim and how they're a victim and how this happened, and then you're holding space for them. You're imagining what they're talking about. You're feeling and empathizing with them. So that pain that they refuse to look at is now affecting you. So we have to also be careful with who we give our emotional attention to and set appropriate boundaries, especially when somebody's trying to trauma dump on us, or if somebody is trying to, like I said in my video, like come into your life and tell you, this is how it is. Oh, you're looking here, but that's not the right place. So anyone who's gonna tell you at any point in your life that you don't have the power within you to change your circumstances, that you have to rely on something external, whether that's magic or demon or God or Jesus, even though those things are well-meaning, and I do in a lot of ways, rely on God and Jesus, but Jesus, the Bible teaches us that the kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven is inside of us. A book is a tool to help us connect, but it's not where Jesus lives. Jesus lives in your heart. God lives in your heart. You can call on the power of their love whenever you need it. Every time I've had a nightmare or any kind of gangstalking experience, when I call on the name of Jesus, even just say his name, I've been, brought back to and protected. And I don't even, go to church or anything like that. I just believe that Jesus was a real life, human, or maybe an alien that walked amongst this earth. And I also believe that he taught and embodied a lot of lessons, but I think that a lot of those teachings have been, kind of infiltrated by the church and these other organizations that want to control people, and they prey on people who are looking for meaning, looking for a miracle, and then they teach them all these crazy ideologies like you're a sinner and you're going to burn in eternal hell if you don't give me 10% of your income, and whatever else, they teach. You have to use your discernment and have to see how it feels when you're learning about these things, and not just take everything at face value. Do your own research. Learn from multiple sources. Use your God-given intuition, your emotions, which are a guide for you. If you're feeling sad all the time, your body's trying to tell you something. If you're feeling scared in the presence of somebody, your body, your intuition is trying to tell you something. If you feel at peace, if you feel calm, your body's trying to tell you something. So I like to move towards what feels good, what makes me feel uplifted. When I'm hearing somebody speak and share, if that feeling goes off inside of me like, you just reminded me of something. I couldn't have said it better myself. I've always thought that, but it never could put it into words. These are all positive signs that what somebody is speaking is true and empowering and good for you. Now, if somebody is saying things like, demons control your mind, and once they enter, you can never get rid of them. If you're born in a bloodline, you're never going to be able to escape. If you have a curse on you, you'll never be able to get out of it. That's another different set of belief systems. And if it makes your body and your energy field feel closed off, that's also trying to tell you something. So that's kind of how I use my own discernment to tell me whether or not I trust the teacher or the person speaking, because we are all vessels for truth, for consciousness. Now, whatever comes through us, whether that is a, demon, an angel, an archon, or whatever comes through us is kind of determined It's based on what we are tuned to, what we believe to be true. So that is how we are all channelers in a way. It's based on our emotional outputs and frequency. So I hope that this video has taught you something, that it has reminded you of your own power. I have a lot of tools on my channel to help you. If you need additional help, I do one-on-one readings. I have those free worksheets that I mentioned, the ones listed as pay what you can, but you can also get them for free. I also have an ESP development and remote viewing mastery course that I highly recommend for anyone who has trouble trusting their intuition. Somebody who needs somebody to kind of guide them. And what I always like to say about mentors and teachers is that we're not necessarily designed to be in your life forever, but we're there when you need us to be. Every great teacher in my life was there when I needed them to be. And every great teacher in my life taught me how to ultimately trust my intuition. And they taught me how to build my spiritual discernment. They taught me how to find the internal truth within. So that is what I, as a teacher, as an influencer, or whatever you want to call me, that is what I aim to do, is lead you back to the power that exists inside of you that you can tap into at any time. And I hope you're always reminded of it when you watch my videos. So thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.